Hi everyone, welcome to the Bison postgame show for Jeff Kolpack, Eric Peterson, and Mike McFeely. I'm Logan Campbell. We're here in Brookings, South Dakota, where South Dakota State just took the Dakota Marker for the fourth straight year, winning 33-16 over North Dakota State. Kolpack, did this go as expected?
Yeah, I think it did. I don't know how you can say any different. South Dakota State is just so tough. I mean, their offensive weapons, the Yankee twins, I mean, almost unstoppable, really, on the outside. Gronowski is a veteran quarterback, kind of gives me an Easton Stick-like feel, if you will. I think he's pretty good. He's that good. He's that moxie, if you will. And defensively, NDSU's offense had to play perfectly. Yep. They just did. They had to match SDSU, and that's tough to do in this league.
Eric, turnovers, how big of an impact do they have today?
Well, if you look at it, and the way it maybe got a little surprised, NDSU is kind of matching South Dakota State earlier, or vice versa. NDSU scores on its first drive, South Dakota State answers, then the two exchange field goals. But back to that Mark Gronowski thing, both Cam and Mark Gronowski had a third and long play where they had a chance to hit a guy downfield. I think Eli Green had a step. Cam Miller overthrows him by maybe half a yard. Mark Gronowski hits one of the Yankee twins in stride, a touchdown. But back to your turnover point, NDSU was hanging in there, then Tamarick Williams fumbles late in that second quarter. It leads to a field goal. It prevents NDSU from maybe keeping the game closer heading into halftime. Instead, they're down 11 going into the half. SDSU gets it to start the second half. And like Jeff said, it's not like you don't blame the loss on Tamarick Williams, but NDSU couldn't turn it over. They couldn't end up -3 in the game. They just had to play to perfection just because of the pressure the South Dakota State's offense puts on a defense.
Mike, for you, what stood out about South Dakota State's offense that just made it so hard for the Bison to stop?
Well, let's look at the big picture here first, and that's that the Jackrabbits didn't even rush to the Dakota Marker Trophy.
It's over there.
Yeah, they forgot even that it was a rivalry game, apparently, and the head coach, Jimmy Rogers, had to tell them, hey, guys, go get the rock. We just won the rock. But I think in the bigger picture, that speaks to just how mature this program has become for South Dakota State. It feels like with all the seniors they have, all the sixth-year guys, a veteran quarterback, that it's just sort of, this is another game en route to Frisco to win another national championship. It's a big game, there's no doubt. Beating South Dakota last week and beating the Bison today is a big thing, but there's more on the horizon for this team. And, you know, is it going to continue after this year for the Jackrabbits with all the seniors they have? And they might lose some kids to the portal. Is Mark Gronowski around next year at quarterback? We don't know that, but for sure for this team this year for the Jackrabbits, they're just so mature and so good, and just nothing really rattles them.
Well, it's been the conversation all throughout the year. It's SDSU and then everyone else. Defensively, what was going wrong for NDSU today?
Well, pick your poison. We talked about it and asked questions of NDSU after the game. What do? Do you try to stop the Yankees and the receivers, the running backs? I think Isaiah Davis is going to get drafted. Quarterback's good, and the offensive line. NDSU is experienced too. It's not like NDSU is got a bunch of freshmen out there, but South Dakota State's guys are just better. I mean, they're older, they're better, they're more experienced. They seem like
they're faster defensively. You can see how quickly they close on some of the Bison players. It looked like they have a gap there, and the linebackers and safeties for South Dakota State would close so quickly. I think NDSU is lacking that. They're going to have to do something. Again, NDSU can still make the playoffs this year, and they showed today. I think they're not as bad as people make them out to be. The Bison, if they can finish 7-4, if they can finish 8-3. Nobody's going to want to play them in the playoffs. No. But certainly for next year, if you're looking ahead, they're going to have to do something defensively to shore up that back seven. They're a little short at linebacker. Their safeties, just because of the transfer portal this year, their safeties and cornerbacks maybe leave a little to be desired. And when you play a team like South Dakota State, you can't be a half step slow. You can't miss a tackle. You have to do everything just right. And the Bison this year just don't have that skill defensively to be able to do that, to lock them down.
We'll get to playoffs in just a little bit. Special teams has become a little bit of an issue. We saw it at UND. We saw it again today. Eric, what stood out to you? What was going wrong?
Who was the guy who picked NDSU on the special teams check mark?
Was it you? Well,
didn't pan out so well today.
Oh, that was the Kolpack jinx because the point after attempt missed. I just think, and maybe it's just SDSU has athletes. I mean, we talked to Jimmy Rogers after the game, and he's, the first guy who blocked the kick has blocked multiple times this day. Because I asked, was it something they saw scheme-wise? He goes, nope, individual effort, which I don't know. He might be saying that to be nice. Maybe they did see something scheme-wise, and maybe it is just individual effort. But
They just have a better team. The Jacks are just better. I mean, they've been better for the last 2 years. And it's really that simple.
Yeah. And like Cam Miller brought up, the second drive, NDSU settles for a field goal, which is fine, but he knows you got to get touchdowns. So me personally, I know you don't act in desperation, but maybe NDSU should just went for it more early in games and not, and especially before the half. Again, a 50-yard field goal, it was missed. I maybe throw it to the end zone, but I just, in the end, it wasn't going to matter. The biggest thing I see when they get to 3rd and long, SDSU found a way to make a play, whether it's the Yankee twins, whether it's Isaiah Davis, where it's Gronowski scramble. And SDSU just has more home run hitters out of the backfield, out of the receivers. We didn't even see Zach Hines even get involved today, and he's a pretty good tight end. I mean, they didn't even unleash him at all. So they just got a lot of weapons. They've got a good quarterback, and I think maturity is the word McFeely brought. They just don't get rattled.
Going up against the top team in the country, are there any positive takeaways from today's game?
They hung in there. I mean, I think what we saw is, you're talking about the playoffs. Maybe we get onto that.
Yep.
Bison could make a run. I mean, everybody else in the FCS isn't that great. I mean, they're good.
Yeah. Delaware lost today.
Yeah.
Southern Illinois lost today as well.
Southern Illinois lost today.
Yep.
I mean, it's the Jacks and everybody else, and so it all depends on the matchups. But if NDSU can get there, and they have to get there first, they have to win one of their last 2 games. I think they should be okay with the way things are in FCS if they finish 7-4, and they could still finish 8-3 if they win both games.
Yep.
And believe it or not, then they'd be in the mix for possibly the 8th seed.
They probably don't want to be the 8th seed,
right?
Because then they would be right.
Let's be coming back here, but that's getting way ahead of ourselves.
I mean, if you really want to get funky with it, they might be better playing on Thanksgiving, playing into like a 7 seed and being on the other side of the bracket of SDSU. Granted, you won't want to turn on a bye week.
We're getting way ahead of ourselves.
Right.
All right. Anyway,
it's just the Bison have to get there first, and then it all depends on matchups in the playoffs, like Chris Kleiman used to say. And I mean, the behind the Jacks, FCS is just a muddled mess of mediocrity. It looks like, or it is what it is, maybe.
Of the next 10, 15.
Right.
I mean, I think Montana State's pretty good.
I think Idaho's okay. I think Montana State's pretty good. Maybe Montana, maybe.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. But boy, the CA teams or whatever, the SoCon teams or whatever, and it's going to be the Valley and the Big Sky, and I think every other conference is just playing for fun.
Well, let's think a little bit closer. 2 more games left in the regular season, both of them very important. Bison are back at home next week at Southern Illinois. Moving forward, what do we need to see from the Bison?
Well, better defense somehow. I don't know how, it's easy to say, but you can't lose a turnover battle, and Southern Illinois is going to come in. They played NDSU pretty tough over the years, and you got to put this behind. You can't just sulk into Monday. I mean, it's got to be, they say, a 24-hour rule? I'd say 2-hour rule. Try to put it behind you.
I think in NDSU's 3 losses this year, I believe that they've turned it over 5 times. Once against USD, once against UND, 3 times today. They have not created a turnover against those 3 teams. NDSU hasn't. So they're going to have to find a way to hold on to the ball against Southern Illinois, get a turnover, get a fumble, get an interception. It's at home. And so that's going to help them. Southern Illinois coming off a tough loss. Southern Illinois not good on the road this year. There's a lot of things in NDSU's favor next Saturday, and they're going to have to capitalize and win the game.
Well, it's not a must-win, but I think it is, because if you
lose
at home and you go to Northern Iowa with your season on the line, good luck. So I think NDSU is in must-win territory next Saturday.
Yep.
So.
Yep, and we'll have that game right here on WDAY starting at 2:30. Our kickoff show begins at 2:20. So the Bison fall to 6-3 after losing to South Dakota State for the 5th straight time, 33-16. For Jeff Kolpack, Eric Peterson, Mike McFeely, I'm Logan Campbell. Thank you for watching the Bison postgame show presented by Gate City Bank.